Money cannot buy happiness. Or can it? I mean, I need money to survive, like shelter, food, healthcare. And a lot of the things I really enjoy cost money. My iPhone, comfortable bed, chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. So does money actually buy happiness? And if it does, why do you see so many wealthy people who seem just kind of miserable? Shouldn't they be the most overjoyed? Well, it's confusing, but the good news is social scientists have been studying this question for decades, and we're going to talk about what they found right now. Hey there! Welcome to Humanicity. I'm Tim, and this is our second video in our very first series on happiness. Now, let's dive into the relationship between money and happiness by zooming out to a global scale. Way back in the 1970s, actually around the time I was busy being born, an economist named Richard Easterlin was studying happiness in 19 different countries. He found that people with higher incomes were generally happier than those who made less. In the top income bracket, they were 10 to 20% more likely to describe themselves as very happy compared to those with lower levels of pay. But then, he looked at how happiness changed over time as the countries got wealthier. Through trade, industrialization, that's when things got weird. As countries' wealth increased, the average citizen gets a higher standard of living, which you would expect would lead to more happiness. But that's not what was found. Instead, the data showed that as countries grew richer, happiness doesn't increase, it stays flat. For example, in the US, GDP per capita more than doubled from 1940 to 1970, yet average happiness levels stayed pretty much the same. So within a single country, at a single point in time, money does buy happiness. But if you look at changes over time, the population doesn't get happier just because the average citizen gets wealthier. So money doesn't buy happiness. So which is it? This discovery was such a big deal, it became known as the Easterlin Paradox. I mean, you know you've made it in academia when they name a paradox after you. Anyway, it basically means that if everyone's doing better, then no one gets any happier because happiness is more driven by social comparison than by money. Decades later, Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel laureate, took this question further and found something similar, but with an interesting twist. His research showed that happiness increases with income, but only to a certain point. Below a certain threshold, basically enough money to afford a comfortable but not luxurious lifestyle, each $10,000 in extra income reduced daily stress and sadness by about 3%. But once people hit that threshold, more money didn't translate into more happiness. He called this the happiness plateau, and concluded that once basic needs are met, additional wealth doesn't move the needle very much. So for years, this was the conventional wisdom.
Easterlin's Paradox and Kahneman's Happiness Plateau
became staples of Psych 101 and Econ 101 classes, giving students everywhere the comforting reassurance that they didn't need to land a six-figure salary to find happiness. That is, until researchers started digging in even deeper and realized the question was far from settled. First, in economics, Betsy Stevenson and Justin Wolfers, an economics power couple, shook things up by challenging the Easterlin Paradox with updated data and new methods, finding no paradox. As income rose, so did happiness, both at the individual and national level, and both on an absolute and relative basis. Happiness didn't increase as quickly as economic growth, but it did increase. And economists everywhere were like, wait, what? Well, that does make more sense. Then, in 2021, psychologist wonderkind Matthew Killingsworth brought even more nuance to the debate. He essentially turned to Kahneman and said, you may have a Nobel Prize, but I've got an app. While still a graduate student, Killingsworth created the Track Your Happiness app, which collected real-time data by randomly pinging users to fill out short surveys about their mood, activities, and thoughts. What am I doing filling out a survey on my phone? What is my mood? Annoyed because I keep getting all these notifications to fill out surveys. With over 1.7 million data points collected, Killingsworth found that happiness kept rising, even beyond Kahneman's so-called happiness plateau. In fact, there was no clear ceiling, with every $10,000 in income linked to a 1% increase in overall happiness. His findings seem to suggest that more wealth could boost both day-to-day happiness and overall life satisfaction, even at higher levels of income. just as Stevenson and Wolfers had rocked the economics world, Killingsworth's findings sent shockwaves through psychology and sociology. Scholars started analyzing old datasets to see if the plateau effect had been overstated. Others questioned if it was all because higher incomes typically come with longer hours and more stress. Maybe those with both wealth and a decent work-life balance were actually thriving. Headlines declared, "Money does buy happiness after all." On talk shows, experts debated whether we should ditch the pursuit of purpose and passion and just go all in on getting rich. Even elected officials took note, with some suggesting that we should go after higher GDP growth, not just to reduce poverty, but to enhance national happiness. If more money really does lead to more happiness, why not focus exclusively on maximizing income? But is that truly the best path to well-being? The answer isn't clear-cut, especially at the level of any specific person, but here's what we do know.
Easterlin,
even at age 82, wasn't backing down when his paradox was challenged. He argued that tracking happiness over time within a single country was critical to understanding how rising ambitions and social comparisons offset the benefits of higher income. In his view, these factors were missed by Stevenson and Wolfers, whose study compared happiness across countries, but at a single point in time. Meanwhile, in 2023, Kahneman and Killingsworth joined forces for an adversarial collaboration, which is basically a research study with a mediator. I mean, they weren't messing around. After a second look at the data, they concluded that the happiness plateau mostly affects the least happy 20% of people. For this group, additional income initially reduces unhappiness, but then the plateau effect kicks in, likely due to deeper challenges like depression or addiction, and more money just doesn't help at that point. Since then, Killingsworth has continued this work. In July 2024, he released new findings showing that even among individuals earning over $500,000 a year, higher income still correlated with greater happiness. One thing everyone agrees on is this: assuming we have enough for a reasonably comfortable life, how we spend money matters much more than how much we have. Studies consistently show that spending on experiences like travel or social events brings more joy than buying more stuff. For example, a study in 2015 titled "We'll Always Have Paris" found that people who spend money on experiences reported 20% higher life satisfaction compared to those who focus just on material possessions. And when it comes to generosity, even small acts can have a big impact. Research has shown that people who spend as little as $5 on others feel significantly happier than those who spend it on themselves. Across all income levels, investing in sharing experiences or giving to others consistently leads to more enduring happiness. Similarly, researchers have found that social ties and meaningful work contribute far more to well-being than income ever could. So where does this leave us? Well, seems like money can buy happiness, but especially if you're sad and broke. For the rest of us, it helps, even at pretty high income levels, though the benefits slow down as income increases, particularly when upward creeping aspirations and social comparisons come into play. But in the end, money is valuable, but relationships, meaningful work, and thoughtful spending hold the real keys to lasting happiness. If you want to dig in deeper, our recommended books are below. Buying through these links helps out the channel without any cost to you. Happiness isn't just shaped by how much money you make. It's also influenced by society and society's definition of success. Our next episode examines the American dream and asks, is it actually making us miserable? Click here or check the link below to join us. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay curious and stay human.